Welcome back to Thunderquack Perfect 10, the podcast where we explore the pop culture masterpieces we love. I'm your host, Michael Cohen. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is a perfect 10? Simply put, a perfect 10 is a piece of pop culture media we love unconditionally. This isn't about review scores, it's about pure joy, because everything around here is a 10 out of 10 to us. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Curtis, Dan, Brian, Mark, and Sherston. Your support makes this podcast possible. Head to patreon.com/Thunderquack to get early access to Thunderquack Perfect 10, exclusive podcasts, and more. In 1975, the movie Jaws made everyone afraid to go back in the water. In 2018, Jason Statham made the sharks afraid. We're talking The Meg and Meg to the Trench with Ty Black. Hi, Ty.
Yay!
I had to go for the fake out there. I had to go for the fake out of people being like, "Wait, I saw a shark, but is this Jaws?" No, we're not talking about Jaws. We could talk about Jaws. I mean, Jaws I think is such an easy perfect 10, but no, we're talking we're talking about the Meg and the Meg 2. And I am super excited because a little while ago on Wit and Folly over on YouTube, you did an awesome video essay about sharks, shark
Mhm.
movies, shark stories.
Yep.
And when you were like, "Oh yeah, let's do the Meg," I was like, "Absolutely," because I want your in-depth, pun intended, analysis of the giant shark movies. So
Yep.
thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us to talk about
Yeah.
a Jason Statham movie where he fights sharks.
I mean, genuinely, that's what it is. Like it,
Yeah.
it really, like literally, it's Jason Statham doing what Jason Statham does. Like it's just all just silliness, and you can look at it one way and just think, oh, it's just a shark movie, but I see it differently. I think it's so much more than just a shark movie. So I'm super excited to get into it. I know when I saw the first movie like sometime between when the first one came out and when the second one was advertising, I saw like the ads for like the 2023 film The Trench, and I was like, it looks more like shiny and
Mm.
interesting, and it's kind of funny. Like it had like very funny ads of the shark like eating tourists, and I thought that was kind of funny. Kind of reminded me of the one new movie that came out when I think I was a teen or I was in college, that was um Piranha.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember seeing the ads for that and just thinking, "Oh my god, really? Like why would they put so much money into something like that?" But now that I'm older
Yeah.
and I have a new appreciation of silliness when it comes to like art and stories, I was curious. So that's when I went to watch the first one, and then very soon after got to watch the second one, and I was just like, this is cool. This is like franchise, like perfection. It has
Mhm.
so much in it to feast on, and they threw so much money at it, but still not as much as some other, big franchise you know IPs, but it's it's got a lot there, and I'm really excited because they actually are gonna make a third one, and I think that it's just gonna make it tighter and more interesting, and yeah, I just hope they keep going. So
Yeah, I mean, I think these movies are pretty great, perfect cinema. Like,
yeah.
just go to the movie. Like, go to the movie theater, watch a movie with your friends. It's there's really it there's not a lot to follow here. They're not complicated. It is mostly Jason Statham fighting some sharks, but there is a little bit going on, right? Like
Yes.
there is some metaphor and some symbolism, and definitely some motifs, like mythic motifs and stuff like that are baked into it.
Yeah.
It's very Jurassic Park, right? Like
Yes.
very much like the man was not meant to meddle
Yep.
sort of thing. And so like there is stuff to get into, absolutely.
Mhm.
But I think there's also just there's value in some aspects of the movie really not needing that either, right?
Mhm.
Like I think a lot of the time when we get into film criticism, I one of the things that people want to do is they want to elevate everything, and some stuff definitely has it. Some stuff definitely needs to be broken down, analyzed, and elevated, because the filmmakers were doing something bigger than you sort of notice at first. And
Mhm.
then sometimes it's a summer shark movie, right?
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing about, especially I think the first one, is that the Meg kind of manages to be both of those things. Like, if you don't
Mhm.
care about the metaphor and symbolism and whatever, you don't have to engage with it at all. You can just watch the shark eat stuff, right? And
Exactly, yeah.
Jason Statham fight it, right? Like it can just be Fast and the Furious, although those movies also have stuff going on in them too. But like it can just be that. It can just be, a Schwarzenegger style action flick, right?
Yeah.
But if you do want to get into it, there is also, there's enough. There's enough meat on the bones to
Mhm.
make a meal out of, for sure. So
Yeah.
I we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I feel like the first one is actually like a really tight movie, and I quite enjoy it. The second one, which I just rewatched, I'm like, I don't feel it as much, but you have notes, you have things, you're gonna illuminate us,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for that. But before we get there, and I'm basically gonna hand it over to you, and let you drive for the rest of the episode. But before we do that, I just want to give our primer. So here we go. What is The Meg? The Meg is a 2018 feature film starring Jason Statham, Bing Bing Lee, Cliff Curtis, Winston Chow, and Rainn Wilson, unfortunately. Directed by John Turteltaub, best known for helming the 1992 classic Three Ninjas. The film centers around Statham, a deep sea rescue diver, and an epic battle with a giant prehistoric shark, the Megalodon. Or, I guess, Megalodons, plural, as we come to learn in the movie. And then in the second one, there's just like, I don't know, a bunch of them. What more is there to say? Let's see. There's high tech oceanic research stations, impossibly preserved deep sea prehistoric ecosystems, giant bloodthirsty sharks, an adorable child, and I think that about sums it up, right? Uh,
Yeah.
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 So grab some explosives and a harpoon gun because we're going fishing for the Meg.
That was adorable. I love it.
Um,
Um,
John,
it did
John Turteltaub, by the way, has directed a lot of stuff that people would know. So head over to IMDb and take a look. But I think it's very funny to highlight that I think it's his third or fourth movie is Three Ninjas, which is something from my childhood.
What? No
Um,
way.
yeah, he directed Three Ninjas, and I Three Ninjas is, I think, a classic. Three Ninjas is a
Yeah.
perfect 10. I
Yeah.
think, like, when it comes to family movies from the early 90s, it definitely sits in that hierarchy of like, listen, does this movie make any sense whatsoever? No.
No.
Does it need to? Not really. There's some kids doing martial arts, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
in the era of Karate Kids and Power Rangers, right? Like, right smack dab in the middle of them. And yeah, the Three Ninjas were awesome. So, but he also directed National Treasure and, like, a bunch of other stuff. But I just thought it was really funny that the guy who directed The Meg directed Three Ninjas, because those
Yeah.
two movies could not be further apart, I don't think, than those two films.
Yeah. No, that's so far. I didn't even think to look at the director. That's hilarious. I love the Three Ninjas when I was a kid too, so it kinda
Yeah,
explains some things.
yeah. Okay, so as I said, I'm gonna hand it over to you. I'm gonna let you take the reins and take us through the Meg and Meg 2, the Trench, where the moved from the Meg, because it's just Meg 2. When you go to search for the Meg 2, or when you go to search for Meg 2 and you put in the Meg, it doesn't come up, which I found
Oh,
like
yeah.
super frustrating, because you'll get the Meg, and then you'll get the Megalodon and Megalodons, and
Yep.
I what was the other one that oh yeah, Meth Gator. Meth Gator came up before Meg 2. And yeah, so I was like, it took me forever to find it on a streaming service, and I eventually had to rent it. But yeah, it's so funny to me that, like, they it's a franchise, but like Fast and the Furious, they completely just like threw the naming convention out the window in the second one. So I'm
Yeah.
curious what the third one will be.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, no, it's definitely odd that they, like, changed it up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned, Jurassic Park in, like, your
Yes.
kind of explanation of, like, what how you feel the movie feels like, and that's something that I when I went in to watch the movies, I was really shocked that it didn't feel like a horror movie,
Hmm.
and the thing about Jaws is, like, it established this weird genre, for shark movies where it had to be slow, it had to be introspective, and it had to be horrific. And rather than leaning into the quieter moments, a lot of directors were just like, well, what makes it popular is the horror. It's the blood, it's the violence, it's the death, right? And ever since like, after like post Jaws, like the shark genre has really never been Jaws. It's always been this kind of like exploitation of what Jaws, you know, kind of is like, but it's not.
Mm.
So when I went in to watch like, the Meg, I'm thinking those types of movies, not Jaws, more like the one I mentioned a minute ago, the Piranha,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And I was surprised to find that it was more like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Which also has like a high death count and like it has horror elements, but it's not just that. It has, family elements. It has funny moments like, and something else that I think is so interesting about this type of genre that, is like this adventure genre is it typically like when it's ones that are really accessible, it's ones where you can say, "Oh, like let's go see that. It's in the movies. That looks like fun." It's like all shiny and pretty and sleek and very very slick. Is that they tell you a lot about like humanity. Like it's like a snapshot of like our media landscape, in the
Mm.
moment. Especially when there's so much money like thrown at them, and especially when there's all these international partners that also are playing
Yeah.
a role. Like it is Chinese produced. It is a Chinese produced film, and yet like a lot of people that worked on it and a lot of people that are in it are, not necessarily Chinese, but you do have the Chinese like on the screen. You have
Hmm.
Mandarin on, and you have Chinese actors on the screen, but it is kind of this more like international film. And I I really find it so hopeful because like the messaging is all so good and it's tight and it's meaningful to me. Um and so yeah, I feel like no matter how shallow, like pun intended, the movies feel, when you're watching Jason Statham do Jason Statham things, it has such a good like solid foundation. There's also like in, to kind of harp on genre just for a little bit longer, there's kind of that element of guess who's gonna die.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in the first movie, they kind of play off of this, in the very classic ways. They, show the shark is charging, and you're like, is he gonna make it? Or is she gonna make it? And then they'll have like a fake out, and it's like, oh, they're fine. Like, and then oh, they still got eaten. And in the second movie, they go beyond that and they create an entire character that's just the fake out character,
Yeah.
which I find incredibly clever. And I'll talk more about him in a second. Actually, that's my next note. But actually, yeah, the names. I should probably talk about the names because this movie is so smart in that the lead is called Jonas, which is a if you like look up, the etymology of like that name, it all comes from Jonah. And Jonah and the whale. I mean, come on, he's
Yeah.
100%. That's what it's supposed to be. And Su Yin is like pure sound, and that's just like obvious. She kind of has she's has the thing with the whales, like the whale noises. Um, so that's her name is kind of working off of that. Mei Ying, who is the heroine in both films, I think her name means like beautiful or something like that. And then we have Jiuming, who is only in the trench. I don't think he's in the first movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, he just gets introduced in the second one, yeah.
Yeah. And he's the uncle, and his name literally means help me or save me, which is hysterical. And like I said, he's constantly getting himself into trouble. Like at some point, Jonas even says that he has like a death wish, and we constantly think he's going to die. And in fact, when I type his name into Google, it's like variations of the question, Juming death or how does Juming die?
Yeah.
Like pop up because people probably think coming away from the film, like, oh yeah, he totally died. Cause like they had it in their head the whole time watching that he was gonna die. So I find that hysterical. And it's also like the puppy, the puppy dog that never dies, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can't kill a puppy dog. Like, why would you kill the puppy dog? So Juming is kind of like that. Um, and then there's the kind of the bigger metaphor, I think, for the films, which is one of my favorite parts of this franchise, is if you go back to like Jaws and to shark movies in general, and even kind of in a bigger sense, the kind of Western storytelling, the American monomyth, there is always an Eden, and it is a sacred place, and it is meant to be protected. And typically, Eden is both the the United States of America. In these stories, that's usually like kind of the metaphor that it's drawing off of, and it's also um, it's it's typically of it's typically a village or somebody's home. Like it's the little village out in the middle of the West that, you know, is all of a sudden invaded by scoundrels or, you know, Native Americans that needs to be protected.
Hmm.
Or it's the small town in Jaws that is totally ignorant of this natural predator that's starting to hurt people, and this one hero has to be the smart one and be the one that can fight against it and take up arms against it to save the whole town. But in the Meg, the Eden is actually the the place that they find in the Mariana Trench. It's that area underneath that, you know, Arctic ice or Arctic cold layer or whatever they call it, that all of these prehistoric creatures live in.
Hmm.
And by going into this place, the humans like release the monster into their world, but their world is not Eden. the the sea is Eden, and this historic place is kind of the purest form of Eden in the story.
Yeah, yeah. It is yeah, it's like it's very much like we're in the invaders, right? Like if we didn't go down there poking around, you know, in nature's business,
Mhm.
then nothing happens. The Meg is trapped beneath the thermocline.
Yes, the
The
thermocline.
thermocline. Um, yeah, and it's just never needs to be a thing, right?
Yeah,
But
but we
especially in the
think it.
second one, it's like because we didn't learn our lesson the first time around. It's not
Yeah,
just the Meg, right? It's multiples. It's the biggest Meg we've ever seen. There's a giant squid. There's dinosaurs basically.
yeah,
Yeah, like
exactly.
it unleashes all sorts of hell
Mhm.
on a bunch of innocent people. But
Yeah,
it's like the Pandora's box sort of element of it, right? Of like
yep.
they didn't figure it out. Like they were warned basically the first time that those two megalodons got out and kept going. Um,
Yeah, it is very much a Pandora's box situation. It's also kind of this, I mean, to lean it more into like kind of the biblical
mhm,
metaphors, it's, you know, like releasing vengeful angels from Eden.
mhm, mhm,
And it's releasing God's pure natural power. It's eating from the apple. It's like all of these different things. Um, but I love that the monster, like, so then we have kind of like, you know, the monster that gets out in like the first film. Um, in its death, it creates life, right? So that monster was pregnant, and I love the very end of the first movie is just like brilliant, and that they show the little baby shark like leave its mouth.
Hmm.
um and you're like, "Oh, this is it's going to continue. It's going to continue on." And that monster is Hai-Chi, and she is born from death. So it's like you have all these like little like metaphors that are like evolving, through the story. We have the release of these vengeful monsters from Eden, and then like you have the being born from death, like being born from violence, and then you have who Haichi becomes in captivity. And the funny thing is, like, Haichi actually means gem of the sea, and I suppose they call her this because she's all white. She's and again, it kind of gives us that whole like, great white shark type of familiarity. But the name itself is basically saying that she is representative of the sea, of the ocean.
Hmm.
And if you don't care for Haichi, then you're going to suffer, essentially. And typically in all of these shark movies, and I know we were talking about this earlier about how like, you know, you made a comment about, you know, some movies kind of require you to kind of delve deeper into their symbology, and some movies don't, and both are totally fine. And something that I love doing just for funsies is finding unintentional metaphors.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, the
love
ones
it.
they didn't mean to put in, and then you're
Yeah.
like, "This is totally there," and like it's so much of it. I think happens because it's just like these archetypes and these tropes are just baked in. So you write a story, and then you turn around and you go like, "Oh, I accidentally did a metaphor. Oops." Yeah, I love those as well.
I love it, especially now that I've been experimenting in my own writing a lot lately, and I find that happens a lot, and it's really cool. It's like not everything has to be intentional, and it shouldn't be intentional if it's coming from an honest place. And there's something that happens in a lot of these shark movies that are not very deep, and it's none of this stuff was intentional, but there's a pattern. And then when there's a pattern, that becomes a language on its own. That becomes a signal, that becomes a signpost. It's like when you watch a fantasy movie and you see like, something that looks like an orc from like a Tolkien type style fantasy. You know what kind of fantasy you're watching. You
Mhm.
know it's going to be like a Tolkien style world as opposed to like a steampunk style world, or something else. So in shark movies, the pattern that exists is that these sharks are vengeful goddesses, and they typically castrate the men, or they go after um, silly bikini clad girls.
Mhm.
And that's something I point out in my video is like, typically it's like this theme of you silly girls, like look what kind of trouble you've gotten yourselves into.
Mhm.
And it's a very much patriarchal point of view. Like, oh, you silly girls, you deserve to get eaten. Look at you, you're not wearing anything. Like you got yourself into this situation, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's the same thing as like that weird, those sort of weird puritanical final girl
Yeah.
element, right? Where it's like final girls are always like the chaste one, which like
Yep.
Scary Movie did such a good job lampooning, right?
Yeah.
And like really bringing that to the forefront of like this is really like come on guys, like it's always the virgin, it's always the this pure untouched, unsullied individual that manages to escape the monster at the end.
Yep.
And so yeah, the in the shark movie franchise genre, it's the reverse of that, right? It's always like,
Yep.
oh, we're gonna go skinny dipping, and then you get eaten by sharks, right? Oh, don't
Yeah.
don't swim at night, and then they're eaten by sharks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always some flirtatious thing that leads to frolicking, and then the frolicking leads to thrashing, and then the blood, and then the
Yeah.
eating. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And there's like this kind of like theme of what's called Tertullian ecstasy. Um and I won't go into super depth into it because I talk about it in my video, but It's essentially the feeling that people get when they watch other people be harmed or suffer,
Mm,
specifically in retaliation for doing something bad. So it is kind of like it comes from this, idea of like wanting people to suffer for disobeying God. Um, and you take, if you believe in that and you believe that people should suffer for disobeying God, then you take delight, you take joy, and you almost have like this ecstatic release in watching people be punished for their sins. And that to me seems in line with, when we see certain types of suffering on the screen, specifically those going towards, like we're talking about with these bikini clad women. Typically, the ones who get eaten are the ones who do stupid things, or who, you know, they're the ones who are sleeping with people, whereas the virgin is saved in the end. But to kind of bring it back to why like the Meg is different is that our ultimate monster in the second movie that's born from the violence of the first movie, Hai Chi is not a vengeful goddess. And I think you said something, I think it might have been before we started recording, that there wasn't really a shark, like there's not a lot of shark stuff in the second movie.
yeah.
And it's because like Hai Chi is like needs to be protected and they can't let her run amok and eat a bunch of people because that's not who she is as the character in the movie. That's not what she's supposed to be doing. She has to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
protected.
Yeah, there's a bit of a flip in the second movie, right? Because in the first one, Rainn Wilson is our human antagonist, but
Mhm.
he's not a capital V villain, right? Like he's an industrialist capitalist. Like he's we're gonna make millions off of whatever. It's unclear how that exactly is going to work by researching deep sea life in this trench, but whatever it is, he stands to make his billions. And then when everything goes wrong, he wants to cover it up, and that's when there's the turn where we're like, oh, he is that bad, right? Like
Yes.
he's not just selfish. He's not just this isn't just about self-preservation in life or death. This is about self-preservation at all costs, right?
Yep.
So I rather than take responsibility for the situation, he allows it to escalate, and then is eventually consumed
Yep.
himself, right?
Exactly.
But in the second film, the narrative shifts back to, this is not on the sharks. The
Yeah.
sharks just be sharking, like even like the I feel like the octopus, the squid, is maybe a little bit more malicious, but we'll allow it because squids are kind of they're kind of shit disturbers in the animal
Yeah.
kingdom. So it matches with nature, but these animals are just behaving in the way that these animals behave.
Yeah.
It's actually this other half of like, because we've merged the pure the pure intent of the research institute with the corporate side. Now we've tainted it, right? Like
Mhm.
because in the first movie they were just scientists. They were just scientists trying to study stuff, right?
Yeah.
And accidentally let these megalodons escape. So it was
Mhm.
very like serendipitous. It was a happenstance sort of story of like, okay, this has happened, now we have to stop it before it hurts more people.
Mhm.
But in the second film, because we're going back, I think it's really smart that it's like that it has to be um ill intent, right? That you
Mhm.
get down there and there's a mining station because there's rare earth minerals down there, and so yeah, like there's nefarious intent there. And because there's nefarious intent, now the sharks are just doing what sharks do. It's not on them, right? Although
Yeah.
the one with all the scars on its face kind of gets it kind of gets played as villainous, but
Yes. Well, and also that's probably the one that got Hai Chi pregnant. So
mm, mm,
there's a like a weird thing going on in terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
the gender throwing around, and like I think Jason calls him an ugly bastard when he kills it. So
yeah, yeah.
It's
I
very
so
odd.
yeah, and like, but it allows us to then have one of the sharks be a hero at the end, and all of that, which I think is
Yeah.
it. I think for the general audience, it might muddy it a little bit. It's one of those
Mm,
things where it's like, did this really like get across the ideas in a like clear,
mm.
succinct way? Maybe not, but
I think
um,
with Ju-Ming though, I think Ju-Ming
yeah,
presents that connecting factor, right? That connecting tissue to say
mhm,
like Hai Chi is different. So we have to protect her because again, like Hai Chi is already she's different not just because she was like trained. She's different
yeah,
because she was raised in captivity and she was born from a megalodon, and already like not in the world in which they come from. That she was born into this world.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So I feel like that connective tissue is there. I totally understand what you're saying though. The second movie is just filled to the brim with so much monster stuff. I think that the very beginning when I saw the T-Rex, I was so confused. I was like, "What is
Yeah,
this?" And
yeah.
it was just fun for them, I guess, to put that in there.
I think I mean, it it was very much let's compete with Jurassic, right? Like that
Yeah.
was, I think that that was their thing, was that because 2023, I want to say
Mm,
that would have been Dominion, the same year that Dominion came out. Yeah,
yeah.
because yeah, it's been 2 years since Dominion came out. So that would have been the like the conversation, right? Is
Yeah.
that the third Jurassic World movie is coming out? It's got all of the stars from the first movie, and so I think that they were just trying to
Poke fun
in a sly
because
way, yeah, like kind of ride that marketing buzz, right? Of like
cuz
shark
the
versus dinosaur.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, cuz the shark literally eats the dinosaur. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
so funny.
in a fashion that makes absolutely no sense, right? Because sharks don't do that. Like that is not now. Granted, megalodon are prehistoric sharks, and so who knows? Maybe there's room here for some conjecture about their behaviors. But that is what it does is actually an orca behavior, which is like
Yeah.
the beaching itself to catch seals and whatnot, and then pulling themselves back into the water. A shark would have a real hard time with that because they're not built to go backwards and they don't have those muscles. Um, Whales can do it, orcas can do it because they evolved onto land and then went, let's go back in the ocean. But sharks have just been in the ocean. Like that's just it's a pretty direct line from small fish to big fish on that one. They don't they never walked on land. So
Oh
but
yeah, these movies are not concerned with actual science
with the
except when it
science of it, yeah.
comes to like preservation. Like that is its sole like focus is like, we should be protecting our seas and we should have
Yeah.
respect for our seas and we shouldn't be killing uh what's her name? Su Yen says in the beginning of the first one, like what we should consider non-lethal options.
Hmm.
And uh Jonas's response is like, "For us or for the shark?" Like
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Because don't you value our lives? But that's the whole thesis of the first film is that she's saying we can't kill this because this is like an important species, that this is something that's important to science. And we kind of get that like thesis and then antithesis and synthesis where they do kill it, but it has a baby and
Hmm.
it gets to live on because life will find a way. So um but yeah, I just find it like so it's just so much fun because I think in it changed my view of some of these types of films. It made me think about um all of this stuff that's like baking under the surface and like how
Hmm.
it evolves over time, especially with if you look at specifically the patterns of shark movies and you kind of see like how popular the Meg is, and it's like, oh, it's not just another shark movie, because if it was just another shark movie it wouldn't do as well.
Hmm.
It has other things that are going on, and that kind of I think that is what makes it so interesting. But one of the things that I kind of like wanted to kind of lean into also is that the the part where Juming touches Chi in the very end,
Hmm.
and it's kind of this like kind of beautiful moment, and then Jason Statham's character is like, you didn't solve it, like she didn't listen to you, she just saw the dolphin pod and like went
Yeah.
after it or whatever. um I mean, it's clearly already telling us like what's going to happen in the next movie. It's clearly already saying that like Chi is pregnant, and Chi's going to like raise this kind of like new gen of shark or sharks. Well, we'll see how many she has. I think it's going to be two. um but yeah, that's gonna be like kind of the ushering in a new gen of sharks that are not going to be as aggressive, or megalodons that are not going to be as aggressive. Fingers crossed. So
Hmm.
that's where I think it's going. And I think again, like all of this is metaphor for the sea. It's all metaphor for taking care of the ocean, and just being mindful um of like the other creatures, and like trying to like live among them, as instead of showing your power over them.
Hmm.
Which is what Jaws was. Jaws, kills the shark, blows it up, and that's the solution. That's always the solution with all those movies, but that's not the solution here, and I find that fascinating. Oh, and something something I wanted to, because we're talking about the unrealisticness, and like this movie does not care about science. um, there's that part in the second movie where Jason Statham, or sorry, Jonas, uh, he's Jason Statham. What can I say?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like Jonas is like, they're at the very bottom in the mining facility, and he's like, I'm gonna swim there, and they're like, you're gonna get, or the at least the little girl's like, voice of reason, you're gonna get crushed under all that pressure, or you're gonna die. And the woman explains like, "Oh, well, actually, if he just like exhales all of the air out of his body, then
Yeah.
there's no air to compress, and then therefore he'll be fine." And I
Yeah.
just think it's the funniest thing every time.
I mean, the entirety of them being down, first off, being down that deep to begin with
Yeah.
is not as trivial as both of these films make it out to be. It's quite, it's just, it's like a little taxi ride down there. Not a big deal. Who cares? And in the second one, they get into the exosuits, right? These
Yes.
mostly fabric, but also kind of like, metal frame exosuits, and that's what protects them. And it's like, there's no one of the components of submersibles, the reason why they're shaped the way that they're shaped, is because they're reinforced to not cave in on themselves, right? Like
Right.
that's sort of the whole deal. Complex structures don't do well under pressure, because the more complex the structure, the more weak points you introduce, right? There,
Mhm.
like, the more folds you have, the more opportunities there are for the pressure to to find a weakness and exploit it, right? So the idea that a human being would ever be able to step outside of a submersible at that depth and walk, much less for an extended period of time, and then we're led to believe, like, that once the dinosaurs puncture it, that we've got a bit of time before that's going to break.
Yeah.
It's like, no, if a puncture happened at all, they're like, that's it. Like, if you compromise the integrity of that glass, it
It's
actually
done.
it should have very violently imploded, actually. Like, that's
Yeah.
like the reality of it, right? But we're treating deep sea like outer space in
Mhm.
this, because the way that things operate in the second film especially is much more like we're in outer space, which is also full of all sorts of dangers and decompression worries and all sorts of, things being in zero G and with no atmosphere. Um but actually being in the depths of the ocean is significantly more dangerous, which is why we send people up into outer space constantly. We're like, yeah, just go up there. We have a permanent structure in outer space, just flinging around the planet in orbit, that we send people up to, and it's not a big deal. Like it's really quite like mundane at this point in human history to just be like, yeah, we just strap them to an explosive and fling them as hard as we can into orbit to match the speed of this other thing that we already put up there piece by piece, and they'll just hang out up there and be like, I don't know, I wonder what happens if we grow a plant. and then and that's what they're doing up there. It's actually like super boring science. It's awesome and it's great, and NASA should be funded and be able to do whatever it is they want to do,
Yeah.
because most of the things that we enjoy in modern life are you know smartphones and Tang. They're NASA's responsible for all of it.
Yeah.
um but but yeah, we don't explore the ocean in the same way because it is way more violent to us. Like that water pressure is way more violent
Mhm.
than the lack of atmosphere
Yeah.
and hurtling around the planet at thousands of miles an hour. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but these movies fictionalize it in a way of like, no, it's all good, it's all
Yeah.
good. Like here's a really big component. These animals would not be able to survive at the surface. Like
Yeah.
that's really, if they'd been down there for millions of years, then the evolutionary pressure, a different type of pressure, would have uh, basically changed them to the degree that they can survive in that pressure. And then the second that they left the thermocline, they would probably just like kind of um
Yeah.
like I don't even know, like maybe
Yeah.
explode. I don't know what happens to I because when the anglerfish come up to the surface, they die, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't survive the process of coming up to the surface because they can't exist outside of that highly pressurized environment. And they just kind of like almost like jellyfish, like
Yeah.
not quite like turning into like goo or like an invertebrate, but they just kind of like, it's almost like they deflate in a
Mhm.
way. It's weird what happens to them. And then people see them and they're like, oh, these things are gross, and it's like, that's not what they look like when they're in the water, like
Right.
when they're in their environment. I mean, they're still creepy looking in their environment, but yeah, not in the same way. So yeah,
Yeah.
like the entire idea that the dinosaurs, I can't remember what they're called
Yeah, the lizard things.
in reality. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not actually dinosaurs. I think you're right, they're reptiles.
Yeah.
But they're like dimetrodons without sails, right?
Mhm.
um the fact that they would be down there, like those are amphibious animals, and the idea, like, we never see that, if there's like maybe there's air pockets, and that's how they're surviving down there, and they have like a little cave that they go into, like Godzilla does. Godzilla has an underwater cave that he goes
Right.
into, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like what's like how, in what way?
Well,
This is silly,
it's
but
so funny though because they do all the legwork to make it work visually. Like at least like
mhm,
if you don't think about it, like you don't like it's there. It's like, oh yeah, in the very beginning and like the kind of the prologue of the movie, they introduce the little dinosaur guys, little lizard guys, and
yeah.
then the T-Rex comes out and then it gets eaten by the Meg, right? But it shows you right away that like, oh, the little lizard guys, like they were kind of like the cockroaches, they like
Yeah.
survived. And
Yeah.
so they are seen, in under the thermocline, and then they come up to the surface, and everybody's like, they have legs, they can walk on land, they can breathe
Yeah.
air, and it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna accept it because have you seen everything else in this movie so far?
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah, and that's exactly it, right? And it's kind of the in for a penny, in for a pound. It's like, I bought a ticket to the Meg.
Yeah,
Well, this is what it is,
this
right?
is what I signed up for.
Certainly, yeah, certainly the sequel to the Meg. I mean, they not only set it up with the cold open on the prehistoric thing with that whole sort of thing, but at the gala, he's kind of asked the question of like, oh, you're gonna go down there, do you think you'll find more creatures? more animals or whatever. And he's
Mm.
like, I certainly hope so. And it's like, well, careful what you wish for, right? Like it,
Yes.
like that's very much a foreshadowing moment of like the I think the most unrealistic thing in Meg 2 The Trench is in that scene Jason Statham isn't absolutely losing his mind at both the idea that they're going back down and that they have kept a megalodon in captivity, right?
Yeah.
Like these two things are so like him not having a problem with either of those ideas and in fact being party to the whole thing is so out of character for who he is not only in the first film but in the second movie as he is constantly telling everybody this is terrible, this is a bad idea. Like at least in The Lost World they have a very contrived workaround to get Ian Malcolm back on the island, right? And in
Right.
Jurassic Park 3 Alan Grant does not intend to go back to the island and is in fact kidnapped back to the island, right? Not even to the same
Mhm.
island. So in those both of those instances, people who know better
Mhm.
are forced into situations where they have to now deal with dinosaurs again. But Jason Statham has decided voluntarily to be a part of this, to go back down, you know, through the thermocline
Mhm.
into the trench. Is such a wild concept to me, and they know they don't bother to even have an explanation. They
I
also
I
just gloss over the fact that the female lead from the first one is
yeah.
gone. Right?
I
It's just let's not
yeah.
talk about it. But
They do. I think maybe they had to write her out very quickly because she didn't wanna be a part of the second
yeah,
film.
oh
That's, like,
yeah.
yeah, my best theory from what I've read online, but I think I will raise you one. I will say
Mhm.
that I think that, Jonas's character is that he always goes into the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
Always, like, without fail, that's just what he does, and I think that the only thing that's keeping him stuck to that foundation with Juming, keeping Haichi in captivity is, the little girl.
Yeah.
And she is like Mei Ying is the heroine of both films. And that's the way I like to look at it. I like to look at it as if like Mei Ying is this princess. Like she even has like a connection with Haichi. Like
Mhm,
at some
mhm.
point, she puts her hand up to the glass and Haichi's kind of there, just kind of like staring at her, but in like a very curious way. And I think like I think that Jonas's character is more so this kind of knight figure that is like protecting Mei Ying
Yes.
and
Yes.
her adventures. It's about her adventures. Um and him him doing the stuff in the kind of the beginning of the second film, they show him doing the I don't know if you call it espionage, but like he's trying to get dirt on the pirates people that are throwing gunk into the ocean, radioactive material, I think is what he
Mhm.
says it is. Um, that I think he was distracting himself with that kind of work in the meantime and kind of like not paying attention to the stuff that was going on with Haichi, and then also the further evolving, stuff trying to get back to the thermocline and all of that. I think that was like his distraction, and then they brought him in and they were like, we have to go down and all of that. And then of course, like, then you have Mei Ying is on the boat, so that changes the nature of why he's there
Mhm.
because she becomes a stowaway, which I find that absolutely remarkable. When that happened in the movie, I was like, yes, 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 I am down. This is awesome. I love that they've made her this main character because she felt like such a main character in the first film to me. And it was just so refreshing to see that this little, this young actress has like grown up
Mhm.
into this next version of this character. And we get to see her grow up even more, and she has the kind of thing with him where she's I can't remember what they say to each other, but he's like, we have to make good decisions and you have to like be safe. And at the very end she was like, I had to save this person, I'm sure you'll understand. And he's
Yeah.
like, I think you get it now. Like he's like starting to see that she's like becoming her own person, and she is, like I said, she is the heroine of the story. So yeah, that's how I see it. I hope that I've like maybe turned your opinions a little bit on the second one, but I think that it really makes I think it makes the first one even better in my opinion. And I know that personally I would not have I would have had I sorry, I would have wanted them to recast Su Yin.
Yeah.
Um but I understand why they didn't, and I actually don't mind that it is a very like, it's that like Western trope of like the old man and like the young girl, and that he's like kind of protecting her, but then she's gonna kind of grow into her own, and you know, I think that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we definitely have a little bit of the Pedro Pascal syndrome going on there.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, you have to have a grizzly old man following around after a girl that won't stop getting into trouble.
Yes.
I for sure. Um, yeah, there's such an interesting component to both of these films that they are Chinese productions. They are not American films. They have been catered to an American audience
Yes.
by having Jason Statham in them as the lead and them being primarily in English. Um, but I especially the first one being from 2018 in that era of China being the largest market. And I if you go back and you look at the Marvel movies from that time period, and a little bit before that, really from like Avengers forward, until the pandemic, and now it's kind of shifted a little bit,
Hmm.
for a lot of reasons that we don't need to get into, because a lot of them have nothing to do with movies and have everything to do with politics and propaganda.
Hmm.
But um but for a while there, for really about 10 years, there was a real movement in Hollywood to include major Chinese movie stars in American films in order to get them to play better in that
In
market,
China.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And the Meg is the reverse of that. It is and they tried it with the Great Wall as well, right? Speaking of Pedro Pascal,
Right.
um, and it didn't work with the Great Wall because they didn't they they tried to market the Great Wall as this historical epic, which it was not. The Great Wall is a monster movie, right? It purports that the reason the Great Wall exists is not because of the Huns, but because of a bunch of basically like demon dinosaurs that Matt Damon, Pedro Pascal, and I can't remember who the Chinese star is of that movie, but basically this a ragtag group of motley heroes have to band together in order to fight demon dinosaurs, right? It's basically Avengers in ancient China fighting dinosaurs, right? um and that's not what that movie was sold as, and that's not really a genre that we do over here. It's one that we should, from my opinion, from my perspective, as but I am like I'm a Chinese cinema, Japanese cinema fan, so
Yeah.
for me it's like I look at that stuff and I'm like I wish that movie was a little bit better.
Hmm.
It is quite objectively bad. But it's objectively pretty bad because it's just a mess, like it's just very sloppy. um but the Meg works because it's a shark movie,
Yeah.
and shark movies fit into this very clean mold, this very clean archetype. The tropes are all there. They're very easy to follow. And then because they're so easy to follow, they're easy to subvert, they're easy to twist, and
Exactly.
it's easy to put your spin on it. So the spin here being, the shark is big enough to eat the boat, guys. Like we're gonna need a bigger boat doesn't even need to be said in this movie, because like, yeah, guys, the boat, it can never be big enough in this movie, because the bigger the boat gets, the bigger the shark will get, right?
Yeah.
So I think with that, like the filmmakers were able and because they brought in a director like John Turteltaub, right,
Hmm.
to to helm this. It got the American perspective in there, even though it is primarily a Chinese production. And I think that's where, like, for us, I think it's very easy to look at it and go, "Oh, yeah, they could just recast Soyin because what difference does it make to us?
Mhm.
But because we have no familiarity with the actor, right? Like, I don't, like,
Yeah.
just to be super clear, I don't think that race has anything to do with that perspective. I
Mhm.
think it's simply just that we're not familiar with this actor,
Yeah.
right? But Bing Bing Lee is a known actor in China. So like her being the lead in the first film is on purpose. It's not just, they didn't just cast whoever, right?
Yeah.
It was very much about putting a known actress at the helm of this shark movie with Jason Statham, right?
Yeah.
Um, so so for us, I think that we go, yeah, that would be, not a big deal. But would you say the same thing if it was like, let's recast Jason Statham, right?
Mhm.
I think we would look at it and go, yeah, sure, whatever. You can do Meg 2 without Jason Statham, and you can put, I don't know, whoever else in there, John Cena or whatever, right? Although
Yeah.
I think John Cena's an upgrade, but
Yeah.
like, just pick another, I
White bald guy.
yeah, white action star who's got some half decent comedy chops. Again,
Mhm.
John Cena I think is an upgrade because John Cena has excellent comedy chops. But that idea is like, yeah, you could do that, but then you would immediately be signaling to the audience, this is a directed DVD sequel, right? This isn't
True.
going into the theater, right? Which is
Yeah.
not, I think, what they want from this. They want this to be a in theater, in person, see it with a crowd, everybody gasps at the same time. I mean, I watched both of these movies by myself,
Mhm.
entirely by myself, because Crystal doesn't want to watch a movie where sharks eat people. um so yeah, and the girls are definitely too young for this. Kara could probably handle it. She could probably handle it, but I'm gonna give her a couple more years before I start watching movies like The Meg and Jaws with her.
Yeah.
And we'll start with Jaws for sure. Like, that's probably more what it is. Is like, I'd be like, we'll start with Jaws, because otherwise, I don't know if you're gonna appreciate the subtleties of The Meg, um, and
Yeah.
it using those conventions, right? But
Yeah.
we'll watch Jaws, and then we'll watch Jaws 2, and then we'll probably skip Jaws 3, but we
Yeah.
will watch Jaws 4. Jaws 4 is actually I mean, like, okay, I have to be very careful about how I word this. Jaws is one of the best movies of all time. Like, it is in like the top 5 movies. It is insane that Steven Spielberg has at least 2 of the top 5 movies of all time, being that Indiana Jones, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, right, is also on that list as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like making like just perfect films. Like, that medium, that experience, like, it's in there, right?
Yeah.
But Jaws 4 is awful in exactly the way I want it to be. And it also has a bunch of actors that I love. So, because it's I
Yeah.
I I
Michael
want to say Lance
Caine.
Guest. It's Michael Caine, right?
Yeah.
Because the the main character, not the main character, because the main character is actually the wife, right? From the
Yes.
first films. But the son, who is Michael, in that, is played by the same actor from The Last Starfighter, which is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. Like The Last Starfighter is like one of my top 3 movies.
Yeah.
Um, and that is not a thing that I justify or explain to anyone, because it's purely subjective and it has everything to do with me and nothing to do with anybody else. But yeah, like The Last Starfighter is one of my favorites. So the fact that he is in it is, like, that's all I need. And then Michael Caine is in it, and it's like, and he's very much, I think, playing against type in that movie. And then
Yeah.
Mario Van Peebles is also in it. And Mario Van Peebles is terrible. He's not a great actor, and he's not good in that movie. And he does a borderline offensive accent. And I not because it's like a Rastafarian accent, or like a Jamaican accent, but just because it's that bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just terrible. Um, but I love that movie so much.
That is so funny that you say that. I would not have expected that. I mean, I understand now from all the reasons you explained, but I watched all of the Jaws movies for that video that I'd made, and then I watched
Mhm.
a bunch of other shark movies too around it. And the shark death in that movie is just by far the worst one.
Yes,
It's so
absolutely. It,
bad.
the biggest thing about Jaws 4, not to go on too much of a tangent, but for me, the 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 problem with Jaws 4 and the third act of Jaws 4 is that we spend the first two acts of the film dealing with all of this PTSD that I can't remember the name of the character of the wife, but the wife from the first film is
Yeah.
like dealing with the fact that like the shark killed her husband, and or not really, she kind of says it metaphorically. He was always afraid of it, and that's eventually what killed him, but then it does kill one of her other sons. And
Mhm.
then so she goes down to the Bahamas or whatever, and her other son has become a marine biologist and is we just pretend like the third movie doesn't exist, by the way, where the
Yeah.
same character works at SeaWorld and is, you know,
Yeah.
it's Dennis Quaid and whatever. We just ignore that. It's a completely different version of the character. Jaws 3 is schlock. It's I think actually the worst one, but
Jaws 3D.
3D, yes. I I but I really like the component that he's a marine biologist and he's studying, what is it? He's studying snails, right? Like their migratory
Yeah.
patterns or something like that. But
Yeah.
then this shark shows up and it's like great whites do not like warm water. Like they do not. There are no great whites in the Bahamas. And this one seems to have motivation. Like it's acting on some sort of, it's not instinct, it's like it's thinking, right? And so he's fascinated by it. And so it creates this awesome thing with the first movie of like he's just like, we got to just do something about this shark. And he's just Roy Scheider is a very simple man. And he's just like, kill the shark. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go out and we're gonna kill the shark. But then Michael in the fourth one is like, why would we kill this thing? It's
Mm.
like this is a scientific anomaly. We have to study this. We have to know, why is it behaving in this way? Why is it here out of its environment? Like all of these things. And so for the third act to just end up being an action sequence and crashing a plane and just exploding things,
Yeah.
it like devolves to me, right?
Yeah.
um as opposed to there being like kind of a smart element to it, but it actually, like, it has a component there that I think the Meg and Meg 2 both have, which
Mhm.
is, I'd be very curious to read the first draft
Mm.
before the studio said, no, you got to blow the shark up, no, you
Mhm.
got to do this, no, you got to do that, right?
Mhm.
And to know, like was there a version of this that was actually like really smart,
Mhm.
before the studio came in and turned it into sequel garbage,
Yeah.
right? So for Jaws 4, I think that component is there.
Mhm.
I think I think that it's a movie where you could look at it and go like, that was a different script, that was a different movie, right?
Mhm.
And then somebody went, but what if we made that into a Jaws movie? And then you start shoehorning in Jaws stuff. Or it started very much as like a movie about the wife, and that the shark was not in it very much, and then they were like, no, 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 you got to have the shark in the movie.
Yeah.
Like what, like, so I it's a thing of like, I'm curious, what's the behind the scenes and how did it evolve? Because a lot of the time with a movie like that, you look at it and you go, oh, this is a mess, it's all over the place, there's so many components, there's so many elements, this character is not consistent in the third act versus the first act, stuff like that. And more often than not, that is the result of a studio coming in and going,
Meddling. Yeah.
I don't know, I just don't think we're going to be able to sell this Star Wars movie if our
Mm.
lead actress is unlikable all the way until the end. So can we give her a Princess Leia speech at the beginning of the third act? Can we do that? And then all of a sudden in the third act, it's a completely different character from the first two acts of the movie, and certainly a different film from what Gareth Edwards wanted to make. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen a few movies recently that really feel like that.
Mm.
That it's like, oh, there was actually something really smart here. Um,
Yeah.
and then also like the latest Jurassic Park Rebirth, I really enjoyed. but I really enjoyed it because it felt like going back to Jurassic Park 3,
Mhm.
where it's like, no, 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 we've said everything we need to say about Jurassic Park. Like, all of the metaphors are in place, guys. We get it, right? Like, yeah, we shouldn't have brought dinosaurs back. And everybody just stays away from the island unless somebody didn't, right?
Yeah.
And then and now we're just being chased by dinosaurs, and it's just and then it's just about characters, right? It
Yeah.
like the island is not part of the story, and those Jurassic World movies tried to make the story about the dinosaurs,
Mhm.
and I like that's not interesting to me unless you are like there are interesting ways to do it, but they didn't, right?
Mhm.
Um
Yeah, so I think it's interesting in the 3rd act of Meg 2: The Trench,
yeah.
um, the none of the main characters die.
Mhm.
So, it's actually really interesting because like, it opens up this possibility where you actually have, like, an incredibly diverse, uh, repeating cast
Yeah.
that is gonna come back. So you have, like, DJ, who's kind of the token funny guy, and and you root for him. Like, he's a you wanna root for him, this kinda guy.
Yeah.
He's not like the Rainn Wilson character. And him
No,
and his
he's a spiritual sibling of LL Cool J's character in Deep Blue
Yeah.
Sea.
Yes. Oh,
Uh,
100%,
there's
100%.
there are very clear lines between those two characters where I'm like, oh, that performance is inspired by
Yes.
LL Cool J, which like Deep Blue Sea is kind of all over the place for me, but
I have my
like
qualms
he's
with
the
it.
best part of that movie. He's the best part of that movie by far.
He
Yeah.
is. I have my qualms with it because they actually had it's actually funny because 'cause we're talking about meddling, studio meddling.
Yeah.
In Deep Blue Sea, I put this in my video as well, they had the main girl and the main guy kiss at the end after they killed the shark together,
Mhm, mhm.
and they played that for a test audience, and the test audience was like, "You should kill the bitch." And like, they were pissed off. They were really mad. So they actually went back and they changed the ending and they killed the main girl, because misogyny, and because, she's the one who made them aggressive in the first place. But it's
Yeah.
like the story was not the story was something entirely different until the test audience changed it, and then it changed by having LL Cool J's character and the guy kind of, like, destroy the shark together, which just doesn't make any sense of where the
Mhm.
movie first started, but yeah, no, I love that it's a nod to that character because I loved Deep Blue Sea when I was younger, like, whenever it was on
Mhm.
television, I would always watch it. I just thought it was so interesting, and, like, the part where she's in that small room with the shark, and it's flooded, and, like, she ends up killing it with the electric cord. I just think it's the coolest thing ever, and I think that's kind of the movie that really got me interested in those kinds of films, or at least made me watch them when they were on, and just, like, couldn't turn away. But I love that DJ has his, like, emergency backpack, and
Yeah.
I love that then we had, like, Lu Ming, who is the help me, save me guy with a death wish, and I love there was even, like, the other character that also lived, but I forget his name. He was but he did I kept thinking he was gonna die too, but he is one of the ones that lived in the 2nd movie, and again, we thought he was gonna die when the helicopter goes down, but he
Yeah,
ended up
yeah.
living, right?
I think it's Max or something like that. I don't know. They
Okay,
call him
yeah.
he's they kind of because sometimes they call them by their first names and sometimes they call them by their last names,
Yes, I
right?
noticed
And
that
it's like
too.
it goes back and forth and it's never consistent. And so you're kind of like, which character are we talking about? But yeah, I know who you're
Yeah.
talking about though. Yeah,
Yeah, but I was happy to see because I was when I was watching it, I was like, "I don't did he die? I don't remember if he died," and I was, like, happy to see, "Oh,
yeah.
no, yeah, no, he lived, that's good." But it was interesting to me that, none of those characters died in the 3rd act. It just goes back to the whole, like, what these patterns are and, like, how this is kind of breaking that pattern a little bit, and this is saying, like, "No, this is an adventure movie. This is like Jurassic Park, and we don't the ones that you don't wanna die, the ones that are helping out, and the ones that are buddy,
Yeah.
they're not gonna die, and that's so different from the kind of the existential horror that, like, Jaws and, like, similar movies kind of bring forth. It's like everyone gets punished for not being heroic enough, or not being something enough.
Yeah.
But this is not that kind of story. And I think they having the again, having the little girl being the heroine, when you once you introduce children into like a shark film like this, into a story like this, you're dealing with a completely different narrative. You're dealing with, like as soon as she breaks out that little like thing that rolls on the ground in the first movie, and she's like kind of using her little iPad to like control it, um, which was probably totally like just a marketing campaign for this toy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was called a Sphero. They made a BB-8 one. I had it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you
Yeah,
would
yeah,
know.
yeah.
You would
Yeah.
know. But like as soon as she's doing that, she has all this like all these little characteristics about her as she's like playing with this toy, and then the megalodon comes up behind her, and I'm just like the whole time I'm just thinking like they can't hurt this little girl. Like they can't do any like any time that she is in the water near the shark, it doesn't matter. Nothing bad's going to happen to her. And I think that that is such a soothing it's such a soothing thing. It's like as soon as she's on screen, you know that no one's going to get like or at least she's not going to be harmed, and no one that's dear to her is going to be harmed.
Mhm.
And I think that something ironic that they did in the first movie when they didn't know necessarily they were going to kill off the mom was they had the shark or sorry yeah they had the shark kill the mother whale, and then the baby whale is the one that comes up to the glass and is like hitting the glass and is like trying to warn them. And the mom Su Yen says, where is the mother? And then the shark comes and eats the kid whale.
Yeah.
And it's like supposed to kind of set you up for like fearing that they're gonna die, like that Su Yen and her daughter are like, but it's also setting you up to say like these two are really really important and we don't want them to die. It immediately puts that thought in your head and makes you think I don't want that to happen. So in the second movie when they actually killed Su Yen off like off screen, it
Mhm.
kind of goes back to that fear of like, okay, well, is Mei Yin gonna die too? And she doesn't. And they keep proving that this is not the story they're telling. The story that they're telling is one where Mei Yin is the heroine, and she's gonna find a different way forward that's different from what Jonas is doing. She's also gonna dive into the belly of the beast just like he does because he is her father figure in a way, and she's gonna take from him that. But you know, she's also her mother's daughter too, and so she has other traits that maybe they can't explore the way they wanted to with Suyeon being off the screen now. But that just makes it more interesting to me. Like that's something that's like, okay, now they have like free reign to like let her kind of be her own person and like grow into her own character as she gets older. So I find that so cool. I just find it so interesting. But
Yeah, I really like that she is such a central character in the sequel.
yeah.
And that it is the same actor, right? That they bring
Yeah.
back the same girl. Um because I think that like sometimes when they want to do that stuff they end up recasting, and they did that with the Ant-Man stuff, right? When they age
Mm.
Cassie up, and it doesn't like I end up not connected with that character because she's so different from the girl that plays her in the first two movies.
Yeah.
And that's such a, to me, with those Ant-Man movies, like that's honestly why those movies work,
Mhm.
is his relationship with his daughter. Is like it's really the only thing. It's not the only thing. There's a lot about Paul Rudd and his performance, and he's very endearing and charming and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But he can do criminal stuff, and he can hang out with bad guys, and he can what and be flawed, and all sorts of I have all sorts of problems with his character and the way that he does things. But we allow it because he's a good dad,
Yeah.
right? Like it's one of those things of like, ah, yeah, but he's a good dad. So, and so much of that hinges on how good the performance is from that girl.
Mhm.
Um, but then they were like, oh no, we want to cast somebody with a name and all of that sort of thing
Mm, yeah.
for the third Ant-Man movie. and it just it doesn't work for me. Like, it loses so much of its charm because of that.
Mhm.
um so when they brought her back, and it's like there is actually some very clear chemistry between her and Jason Statham,
Yeah.
that like I believe the dynamic between those two characters without them ever explaining it.
Yeah.
They never, like it is very clear by the end of the first movie, and there's a lot of like hitting you over the head with it at the in the second act of like, hey, so you guys are gonna get together, right? Like, and he's like, no, not in a million years. And his ex-wife is even like, come on, like it's okay, like almost like giving the audience the indication of like, he's not going to get back with me. They're like, pay attention to them.
Yes,
Right? Yes,
yes.
he came here to rescue me, but that's not what this story is about.
Yeah.
And her giving the blessing of like, she likes you too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I to get us on board there. So by the end of the movie, you're like, okay, so these two are going to end up together. And so when we come back in the second one, she's gone, but it is very clear that in the years in between, that he has essentially become her father, right?
Yes. Yes.
And not just in a technical sense, but in like a very real, like that is his role, and that is who she sees him as, and they accept each other in that, and he really owns it to the degree of like, like,
Mhm.
I will punch a shark in the face to protect you, sort of thing. I'll swim out there, right? And the in the midst of there being way too much human stuff in this underwater facility, and the like walking from the subs to the thing and whatever, it's like that goes on in terms of pacing for me. It's like that goes on for way too long. But in the midst of that, you do have the great scene where the bad guys are like, take the harpoon and shoot him in the chest.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, is she gonna do it? And then he steps in and goes, if it means Mei Ying lives, do it. Like,
Mhm.
do it right now. Do it. And he's like shouting at that other character, like, kill me, because it's my job to keep her safe. Number one, first
Mhm.
and foremost. And if it means that she gets to live, then do it. Right.
Mhm.
And that's where we're like, oh, like he's a legit hero. Like, he's a
Yeah.
knight in shining armor, right? He earns it in that moment. And Jason Statham gives a pretty good performance in that scene. Like, I
Yeah.
believe it, that he's like, I don't like, no, my life is not worth anything. That's why I keep going out and risking it and doing stupid stuff, but this kid is the future, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that that's so great.
it's directly mirroring the fact that like Jason Statham is like this monomythic hero that,
Yeah.
is trying to save the world, but he's saving the world by kind of putting all this darkness, all this violence on himself. Like, he's the one who's willing to get his hands dirty.
Mm,
It's that very monomythic hero. And typically those heroes are not allowed to like they're not allowed to have family, they're not allowed to be happy, they're not allowed back into the Eden that they saved.
hmm.
But his Eden now is only Mei Ying. And it's so interesting. There's that part at the very end of the movie where Mei Ying is like at risk because she's like going out to save someone, and Jason is like, or Jason, Jonas
Jonas,
is
yeah.
like banging on the water trying to create vibration to get the shark
Yeah.
to come attack him instead. And he succeeds in that, but there's, this part where they show him like really afraid that it's gonna eat him before he can kill it. And he has like tears in his eyes. And it's like, okay, like they did that. They did that on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
He's not like this heartless like hero that is just willing to die for Mei Ying. He has a family now, and he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to die. And I think that that's important for these types of movies, and it's important for these types of movies that have characters like Jonas Taylor, who typically act in a certain way, but when we see that fear of actual dying, and like that, the fear of losing Mei Ying as well, it's like, okay, that's what it's really about. And I think it's so cheesy, but I will harp on it till the end of my days. When a movie says, no, this is about family, no, this is about living, no, this is about
Hmm.
eating and enjoying life, and being with your loved ones and all of that, I think that that is incredibly important, especially with the world that we're living in today. So I will always, no matter how cheesy it is, I will treasure it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I Superman just came out, right? Have you seen it yet?
I have not.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna like it though, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think you will too. I've seen it twice,
Oh,
and I'll probably go see it again in the next day or so, because I've got some time. So I will probably be watching it again because I absolutely love it. Superman's one of my one of my guys. It's
yeah,
Superman, Obi-Wan, I and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. They're
yeah.
kind of my I've kind of got like a trinity of them where it's like
That's your
the
horoscope.
yeah, exactly, right? They're like my like the star signs, right?
Yeah.
Like sun, moon, and rising.
Yes.
I Yeah, absolutely. It's the way that I look at it is like I Superman and Obi-Wan are very much characters that I look at and it's like that's kind of what I strive to be, right? Like Superman is an unattainable ideal,
Yeah.
but Obi-Wan is a little bit more realistic. So like it's the these are also sort of like the aspects of the psyche, right?
Yeah.
And then Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is very much like, oh, that's all my flaws, but it's all the
Yeah.
flaws about me that I actually quite like.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where I've got the three of those characters. But Superman sits in that very cheesy, corny, saccharine sort of zone, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's what a lot of people will give the character of Superman flack for. But the new movie, without saying anything that I think is even remotely a spoiler, like it like relishes in it.
Yeah.
It makes it not just his greatest strength, but it makes it the it hangs the whole movie on it, on that aspect of the character.
Mhm.
So like I agree with you is what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
that stuff, if that's not what the story is about, then I'm kind of at a point right now in 2025 going like, then what's the point of the story? Because
Exactly.
this anti-hero stuff and the cynical stuff, like where are we getting with any of that? Because I don't think that it's pushing society forward. I don't think that it's helping people be evolved and thoughtful, compassionate human beings. And so I'm really glad that like Superman and some of these other movies and stories that are popping up right now. I'll put a shout out to K-pop Demon Hunters as well, because that's,
Mhm.
to me, like that's as much as Superman's like the movie of the summer. It's not. K-pop Demon
Oh,
Hunters is
yeah.
the movie of the summer.
Yeah.
It's probably the movie of 2025. I have a really hard time believing that anything's going to have as much like just like
Mhm.
massive impact. Billboard number one hit, yada yada
Yeah.
yada. As that movie, but like that's another one that is like, well, yeah, like what's the takeaway from that? Friendship is magic. Is that too cheesy? No, it's not. It's not too cheesy, right?
Yeah.
Like the people that you choose as your family, your community, that stuff like that. That's what we need to focus on right now, because the bad guys want us to focus on this other stuff. They very much want us watching American monomyth movies because
Yes.
they want us to believe in rugged individualism. But yeah, listen, you did it. You did just turn me around on the second movie, because the second movie, like Meg 2, The Trench, I always feel like I got to say the whole title, um, just so that we're clear which one we're talking about. I it's gonna fall into what has become my favorite genre of storytelling, which is the takedown of toxic masculinity and the patriarchy, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and using these icons of that in order to do it.
Yeah.
So Jason Statham being very much like the epitome of that sort of a story.
Mhm.
But actually, like, here's the deal: go watch his movies.
Yeah.
Go watch his movies. Even the Fast and the Furious stuff. He starts as a bad guy, but when they turn him into a good guy, they do it by talking about exactly what you're saying, which is like it's about family,
Yeah.
right? And once we have that connection of like, which was his motivation in his initial appearance as well, but once we sort of go like, oh wait a second, our hero and our villain actually are motivated by the same thing. If we just connect these dots, he's a good guy too.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a very like, that's such a, it's such a Dragon Ball thing. Which I keep bringing this up, but I keep bringing it up because it's a thing that I just think needs to be said over and over and over so that people understand that Dragon Ball is not about who can punch the hardest, who's got the biggest fireball, or any of that stuff. That's all just like flashy window dressing. Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama's story, is about overcoming toxic masculinity and being kind.
Yeah.
And Goku is Superman. And that's always been the case. It was literally his inspiration. The original Dragon Ball started as Journey to the West, right? But when he did Z, the reason why he brought in all of the Saiyan stuff and the aliens and whatever is because he was turning his most popular beloved character into Superman, like literally into Superman, because he was like, these characters are already the same.
Mhm.
Like they're all, the core of what they do is the same. Like they they fight because they're trying to help, right? Like that's
Yeah.
always what it is. And kindness is at the core of both of those characters. And so yeah, like I always just go back to this with Dragon Ball so that people can understand that if you watch that series with that lens and you see that like this is why Vegeta becomes a hero, is because Goku gives him a second chance and basically says, you're a part of my family now. And he ends up becoming part of the family, and that's what makes him a good guy,
Mhm.
right? And because he becomes a part of the community. When he's introduced, he doesn't have a community,
Yeah.
right? And when Jason Statham's character is introduced in the first film, he is out he has purposely removed himself from the community, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that whole first movie is about him coming back into it. It's about him finding a place in this community. And
Mhm.
then the second movie is about him defending his family, right? Like
Yep.
it's now he is in the role of having to protect it.
Exactly.
um
Yeah.
if they can carry that through with the third movie, then that'll be like the cherry on top, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, it would be so great if they can do that. But yeah, but it Jason Statham is enough to get me in and to keep me entertained with these, because it's like, because Big Shark by itself is not enough. Like there are
Right.
lots of movies with Big Shark, as I learned when I was trying to find Meg to the Trench, and also Big Alligator, and also piranhas, and also like
Yes.
there are
So
all sorts
many.
of monsters, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what's interesting about these movies. It's To me, the thing that gets me in is, yeah, Jason Statham.
Family Man.
And yeah, um and it's why we always love when these movies, or like these movie stars, Vin Diesel is another example, when he goes from being, triple X to being the pacifier,
Yeah.
right? And you watch the pacifier and you're like, oh, he's playing against type, but also he's playing into his own persona and his tropes and all of that stuff. But I love that movie. That movie is so good because it's got heart, and it's
I
cheesy,
love
and
that
it's about
movie.
family.
It's so good.
um and it's that's just Vin looking at Schwarzenegger and going like, Kindergarten Cop is probably one of his best movies, right? Like I think that Kindergarten Cop is better than T2. And people can fight me if they want to, but yeah, I think that's really like Schwarzenegger at his best.
That's so
um
funny.
but like that's it's the reason why we love those movies. We love it when those characters do that, is
Mhm.
because I think as much as the American monomyth resonates, when you take that hero and you actually like put them back in the community and you make it the story about that, I think that we like that more.
Yeah.
I think that
Absolutely.
that resonates even harder than the Ayn Rand sort of
Yes. Martyrdom-ish kind of
yeah,
thing, yeah.
yeah,
You're redeeming the exiled hero, and, like, the redemption
yeah,
factor is actually like, there's a redemption in the initial hero, it's like redeeming the Eden, but it's because he redeems Eden by taking it on himself, by putting the darkness in himself and taking on the evil on himself and then exiling himself from Eden. But the fun part about the movies that you're talking about is like he redeems himself from the
Mhm.
darkness and he rejoins the Eden that he saved. So yeah, it's a thing and it's exciting.
And it's
And
always a kid. It's always a kid that brings it back in, right?
yes,
Like
yes.
that's and it's like the it's the real purity of that, right? Because I think that sometimes they try and do it with like a woman, right? And because
Yeah.
these are always men. If it's an American monomyth, it's almost always a man, unless it's Tomb Raider,
Yeah,
in
yes.
which case it's just a man with boobs. But
Yeah.
I
Yes.
like you can try and do it with a partner, right? You can try and do it with like by having it be
A
a
lover.
woman,
Yeah.
and yeah, and love being the thing, but like that, I think that only gets you so far. And it's why in all of these stories like Speed, right, you know, at the end of the movie Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves kiss, and then you get to the second movie and yeah, it's because Keanu Reeves didn't want to come back, but but there's almost something like it's so consistent that like they're never together in the second movie.
Yeah.
Right, it never, like that never lasts, it's not a lasting thing. But when we do it with a kid, if you come back in the second movie and you were like, if they came back in Meg 2 and they're like, yeah, the kid died in the middle,
It
we
wouldn't
would have
work.
been like, movie off, done, I'm out
Yeah,
of here, no thank you.
exactly.
Yeah, you can't do that, right? Because
No.
it's because there's something like actually pure about the child
Yeah,
as the archetype, right? About the princess in this instance, that is like, we can't mess with that. You can't
exactly.
mess with that. It is actually, stronger than steel,
Yeah,
sort of thing, right?
exactly.
Cool. Well, I mean, I think we talked about the Meg and Meg to the Trench. I think that we did it.
Yes.
I think that we definitely made a case for why this franchise presently is sitting in the perfect 10 zone. And yeah, and you definitely convinced me. You got me there on the second one. So
Yay! I did
that
my
was,
job.
yeah, that's the point. I mean, like this is what Perfect 10 exists for, right? And I say this a lot, but when I come into on the ones where I'm like, where either I have no familiarity with it, or if I'm kind of like, I understand why it's a perfect 10 for you, but it's maybe not necessarily a perfect 10 for me. Um, I always end up walking away from it going like, no, yeah, no, it's a perfect 10. No, we're good. We're on solid ground here. Um, because it's just it's that passion, and it's like um it's just like it's a vibe, like that's all
Yeah.
it is, like. And that to me, vibe is it's become such a trendy thing. Actually, I think it's probably out of trend, and the Gen Z's and the Gen Alphas probably think I'm so cringe when I say vibe. but
Probably,
um
yeah.
but really that's what Perfect 10 is, right? Perfect 10 is not a score, it's a vibe. And so all it takes is talking to somebody who loves it in
Yeah.
order to like get there and be like, yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, I agree, this is definitely a perfect 10. um so yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that. And if you want more of this sort of thing, especially particularly if you enjoyed us talking about shark movies, please go watch Ty's video on sharks over on YouTube. What's the title of it?
It's actually called Kill the Bitch.
Okay, there you go. I Awesome. Yeah, it was excellent. So good. And I mean, like, I initially found you from like the Raylo Star Wars stuff, right?
Yeah.
That was actually, I think I had watched movies with Mikey, and I think his Last Jedi review, and then your video was in like the recommended videos. So even before I started listening to What the Force, I had watched some of that stuff, and so most of my recommendations have been Star Wars related for your videos. But when you put this one out, I was so excited because I was like, yes, yes. As much as I love when you talk about Star Wars, and I'm always going to celebrate that. It's like, yeah, let's get that, but with some other movies, and I do love shark movies. So
Yeah.
so it was like awesome. Let's get some in-depth analysis on that stuff. So everybody go check that out because it is a fantastic video. But just go watch all of Ty's videos because they're all great.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
actually working on a I know last time we talked, I said I was working on something a little different. I'm still not sure if I'm gonna finish that. But obviously I haven't made a video in a long time. I just started playing, or I actually am about to finish the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle video game.
Ooh.
And I'm really, really, really interested in doing a deep dive into, Indiana Jones and kind of the American monomyth around that character and kind of where they're at with the franchise, unable to recast, like all of these things, all these conversations have been happening online about like, why the story is so good in the first place and like what would make it good going forward. And I think
Mm.
all of the answers are actually in the video game. So I definitely am trying to figure out a way to do a video on that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with my channel. Please go watch my evergreen videos,
Yes.
because they're there on
Yep.
Wit and Folly YouTube channel, and I'm on Blue Sky at Ty Black, just TYBLACK. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody go follow Ty on all of the places
Yeah.
where you should follow. YouTube, Blue Sky, all that stuff.
Yep.
And enjoy those. If you've watched Ty's videos already, because I know that some people listening to this have already taken the recommendation, go watch them again. I like it's seriously like there'll be times where it's like, oh, I know that I'm gonna have a conversation about X, Y, or Z with somebody, and it's like, oh, I gotta go watch one of these videos to get refreshed. It's the I is it the boy with horns? That's the
Yeah.
Kylo Ren one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Little boy with horns
Um
on his head. Yep.
yeah, the boy with horns on his head. Yeah, I go back to that one actually a lot because I find myself sort of referencing that, and along with a lot of the stuff that Missy and MC say about Kylo
Yeah.
Ren and the Last Jedi. But that to me is one where like I can go back to that, and it brings it all back for me. Like it gets me back into it, and I'm like, okay, yeah. Whenever I have to,
Yeah.
whenever I have to go out and defend Kylo Ren
Yeah.
to everybody, because there's still a lot of guys out there that are like, he should stand trial. It's like,
uh,
what? Yeah, because that would be a great movie, guys. That's what
exactly.
we're here for. That's why we tell stories, so that we can put characters on trial. Anyways,
Exactly. Yeah. Mhm.
so yeah, again, go check out Wit and Folly. Watch all of Ty's videos; they're also great. And also go back and listen to all of our episodes of Perfect 10 that we've done together, because we've done some awesome ones.
Yes, we have.
Some of my favorites. So that our Knight's Tale episode, I think, is still it's one of my
It
absolute favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so
I
much
think
fun.
yeah, we nailed it on that one. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that one for sure.
Yeah.
And then that'll make you want to listen to our other two Heath Ledger episodes.
Yes, the Heath Ledger,
um,
like, trilogy that we did, yes,
yeah,
so good.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, you'll be back. We will definitely have you back in our next season. This is technically the season finale. Did you know that? Yeah,
I am
technically.
I am absolutely honored.
um, and we'll actually probably be back a lot sooner than I originally anticipated, because a movie came out, and I'm like, yes, I need to talk about this movie with a person who is an
Uh.
expert in this subject.
Oh,
But we're
fun.
not going to talk about that movie. We're going to talk about a different movie that is related directly to that movie. So people can go ahead and put those clues together and try and figure out what I'm working on. But yeah, we'll be back. I was gonna take August off, was basically the plan, and we're not going to. So we'll be back in about a month, with another episode. But I am gonna keep it a secret for now. And then I am working behind the scenes and planning season 4, the rest of season 4, I should say, because that episode will be the premiere of season 4 of Perfect 10. But yeah, you and I, once we're offline, we got to talk about what your next thing's going to be,
Yeah.
and we'll put it on the schedule. But you guys know Marie-Claire will be back, Missy will be back, Joe
Yeah.
will be back, Danielle. Tim did a great job this season with his Final Fantasy X episode. So yeah, all of the regular faces will be returning in season 4 of Perfect 10. So stay tuned, and send it to a friend. I appreciate all you guys that are listening and supporting us, but like, we don't have a lot of people listening to Perfect 10, and there should be more, because it's the best podcast that I do. But the numbers don't reflect that. So go share an episode with somebody, because there's some, I think at this point now in 3 seasons of this show, there is an episode that literally hits something that everybody will love. So
Yeah.
find somebody else's Perfect 10 and send it to them and tell them to watch, or listen, I should say, because you can't see us intentionally. I don't want to be seen. I only wish to be observed and not perceived. That's the
Exactly.
that's the line that I draw as an internet personality, quote unquote. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Ty, for joining. And you can join the conversation over on our Discord server over at thunderquack.com/Discord. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast service and leave a rating and review. I know that every podcast says this, and so not everybody, like, I think people are kind of like blind, really deaf to it, I should say. I'm mixing my my sensory metaphors today, but it literally is the only thing that helps, especially on Apple Podcasts. The only thing that matters is those ratings and reviews. And with that, Apple then looks at the other things that you've rated and reviewed, and it goes, oh, there must be a connection. And it's like, well, correlation is not causation, and whatever. It's not scientific in any way, shape, or form, but it is how they decide how to recommend podcasts to people. So yeah, definitely leave a rating and review, and help us reach more people with the podcast. But that's it for this one. And until next time, remember, it's not about the score, it's about the love. Stay frosty. Thunderquack Perfect 10 is hosted by me, Michael Cohen. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TQ Perfect 10, and join the community at thunderquack.com/Discord. This podcast is supported by listeners just like you over at patreon.com/Thunderquack. Head over there to get early access to episodes, exclusive podcasts, and more. This show is a part of the Thunderquack Podcast Network. Head over to thunderquack.com for more great shows. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.